Um, Welcome to how can we use a USG to protect against ransomware. My name's Hugh Simpson. I'm the head of channel pre-sales for Europe, coming from the technical side. So any questions, etc., so housekeeping, any questions, please fire them in. I will do my very best to answer them at the very end. Hopefully everybody can hear me loud and clear and can also see the presentation that we've got up today. If you can't, please use the Q&A or the chat down in the bottom right-hand corner, and we will go and address it. So, let's take a step back before we get into some of the more detail around ransomware. Ransomware is a form of malware. Okay. And it is combined. The two things are very, very close together. We used to, have a lot of malware that tried to be very destructive. Ransomware takes that destructive element and asks you to pay for the recovery of it. So again, it comes from the malware family. The Trojans, the worms, etc. The virus side of life. And again, it's history behind it. And I would listen to some of you I know were on the presentation yesterday from Christoph, sorry. Yeah, it's been around actually quite a long time. Virus, the ransomware started in Russia, 2000, etc., and has continued through. So ransomware, unlike malware, as I just said, limits users' access to their systems or files. Okay, there are different types of ransomwares that are prolific out there. Some lock just down the files, some lock down the system, some lock down the BIOS, for instance. And ultimately, what they're actually asking for is for money and payment to obviously release this, and ultimately, whether that is an online payment at the beginning, or as you don't pay and time increases, then they delete and destroy more files. Okay. The other thing about ransomware is it can be inactive. Okay. We'll look at an example later on, which last year actually there was a date in May. It's coming up for its anniversary, which was a very destructive day. And the ransomware stroke malware had been pushed out a lot earlier, and it only became active at that date and time. Okay, some of the more prolific ransomwares that we're seeing, obviously CryptoLocker, CB Locker, etc. There's lots of different names out there for them, and lots of different types, and we're seeing them change on a regular basis. So let's have a look at some recent cases. I'm going to use some different cases to yesterday and Christoph's case with the hospital in Hollywood. This one is a police department in Massachusetts. Okay, got done by CryptoLocker. They paid. Okay, and again, we can look at it in two ways, and should we be paying for the release of it? We'll look at how we get around that and some of the stuff at the end around what you should do to try and not pay. But ultimately, sometimes you just have to pay. I haven't used it here, but a case came to my mind as I was writing this about, and it was just from a customer, and again, every customer I'm visiting and seeing, ransomware seems to appear on a regular basis where people are being hit by ransomware. And actually, one of the cases that comes to mind was a retired priest, and he lost all his sermons and all his information, etc., got locked and encrypted. And in the end, he had to also pay to get those unencrypted. And obviously, that's someone who shouldn't necessarily be hit by this. This is the May 25th, 2015. This one appeared. So this one was loaded in, okay, stayed idle for a period of time. And then on May the 25th, 2015, it appeared. And ultimately, it was a big hit to everybody out there. The idea around these dated ransomware hits are the fact that no antivirus vendors are aware of them. Okay, so they are allowing to be hit and be activated without being stopped, and therefore getting the most ransom, I guess, back from them. Yeah, as I said, every month new versions are coming out. So just last month, we saw ransom ZyXEL.A being released. Last month, March, 2 months ago, 4 new versions, okay? One including the use of TeamViewer. So again, from a support aspect, we use TeamViewer a lot, both for our customers and internally, and I know it's become a lot more popular. There was a version out there that appeared as a TeamViewer XE. So again, something that looks very legitimate was used to spread ransomware. Okay. Again, common behaviors. Again, on this, they will give you the option to decrypt some files to prove that they are legitimate and not just asking for money with no legitimate keys. The idea is that once they've got their money, they will decrypt it for you. They're not after continuous blackmail in this case. It is a one hit. You pay the money, you get the key. Once they start blackmailing you or going a little bit further, then they start to be able to be tracked through the process, giving them more time to be found. So again, time, ransom over time. Sometimes you're only given 24 hours, 48 hours, 72, etc., going up. Different times, the payments will increase, or they start deleting files after that time. So you have no chance of getting them back or decrypting them. They've gone. Again, prices tend to increase as time goes on. So they want you to react very quickly. That's the idea. They also don't really want to delete the files, as in, because they want you to pay. That's the end goal. Okay. Whereas some malwares and viruswares, etc., are out there, or viruses are out there, which are solely destructive, the ransomware is all about the payment. Okay. So I'm going to use the same example and format as Christoph yesterday used. Most of this comes from emails, okay? Phishing of emails. There has been some very well-known cases, and again, speaking to another colleague of mine around being put on news sites, okay? So again, you go to a popular news site, and you go and click a story or click something, and that downloads the ransomware onto your machine. But actually, most of it comes from a phishing email, okay? Sent out with a title, etc. User, unbeknownst, opens up the email, clicks the file or the attachment, etc. that executes the ransomware, and then ultimately that then is on your machine and starts to encrypt your files. There is always an attempt, or there should always be, most of them always attempt to contact the command center to say that it's happened, etc., and go forward. Sometimes that isn't the case out there, and ultimately, again, once these files are encrypted, the ransomware message is displayed. Okay, and at that point, when you get there, obviously you have one option, which is to pay. Another option, of course, is to do nothing. And then there's a few other options in between, which tend to be which happens around the likes of backup, etc. Okay. And recovery. So, funny enough, yesterday I was looking through my Hotmail account actually, and in comes this one from HM Revenues and Customs. Now, of course, in the UK, we've just finished our tax year in April, so there's a lot of these going out there. Okay, so hang on a moment. HM Customs Revenues and Customs are emailing me. Hey, what is this about? We're pleased to announce that the calculation offers the amount overpaid by you in 2015 will be refunded. Great, I'm due a refund. Unfortunately, when you start looking into the actual email address, etc., in here, quite blatantly not HM Customs. When you start looking at what the actual online form is, and then again, very down the bottom of the email, no signatures, etc., and all the rest of it goes on. This one's actually quite a weak phishing email. Some of them are a lot more clever. Okay, and a lot more intelligent around how they're emailing out, who they're emailing to, what they're emailing. Again, some of these sit on the back of, suddenly a whole load of passwords have been, or accounts have been compromised. You will then suddenly see a whole load of ransomware or these phishing emails go out straight after with, hey, you need to change your email. Your account has been compromised. Please change your password. Please click on this link, etc. And then the ransomware is on your machine. Okay, so again, they are very cleverly done. Okay, so that actually comes from a web-based mail system. So there was a question yesterday, I believe, around can web-based mail be filtered or checked? The answer is no. It's not generically coming through the USG in the anti-spam side. Anti-spam is used for checking POP3 and SMTP traffic. Okay, and we use some real-time protection. So again, we take our mail service, etc., and we use those. So if we actually have a little look in here, things to turn on. Okay, when we do our configuring within our anti-spam. Okay, make sure that you know where your mail is coming from and where your mail is going to. Okay, and make sure that the rules and the security policies are set correctly. Okay, so again, if you're sending mail out, you might also want to check it. Okay, making sure that no one internally is sending out ransomware mails from your mail accounts. Potentially, it can be traced back, and vice versa. Of course, we don't want that. We want to check the mail coming in from the WAN to the LAN side. Okay, so we check black and white lists. We can put in here subjects, IP addresses, email addresses, mail headers. So again, we can start locking some of this out by our own creation. Okay, so again, trusted IP addresses. We might want to whitelist. We might want to blacklist things that have been hit before, etc., or known addresses. We use the Siron Mail service. This is a online service, and really check some of the reputation, the content, the virus outbreak. So they are scanning mail servers. They obviously host those in the cloud, and they're scanning through. So we can check those services to see what they are seeing, and use that to also check whether any mail we're downloading off our servers match what they are seeing out there. Finally, we have the DNS blacklists. I'm also not a great fan of these. They do sometimes appear to me to be like ransomware, but legitimately, in the fact that they're not locking down anything, but they might start locking down your IP addresses, etc. And therefore, in some of these DNS blacklists, you actually have to pay to come off them. But actually, they can do a job. Some of the more legitimate ones out there do a good job and help with the process. Okay. Second thing, we should do. So that's blocking the emails coming in. So hopefully that's stopping some of the spam, some of the phishing emails that come in, and removing a lot of that content. That's the first step, okay? But as I said, sometimes these ransomwares are not coming in via email. Some of them are coming in from users going onto the web, onto legitimate websites. Two that have been hit recently have been, we had one in the UK and there's one also out in Europe that's been hit on news websites. So someone's been able to inject somewhere behind a picture or behind a link a ransomware or link to a ransomware. So again, that's not coming through the mail. You might also find that users are going through different links, finding out they're going somewhere, and then clicking a link that they shouldn't necessarily click on, or shouldn't be able to click on. And then therefore it gets downloaded that way as well. So we have content filtering on our system. Obviously we have our categorization. So again, we can stop people going to some of these uncategorized sites in the first place. Stop those going through. And the new feature coming in with content filtering 2.0, which will come in the next release of firmware, will also be able to stop HTTPS as well. So we will be able to categorize those. But ultimately, what we're looking for in here is the security threats, okay, the malwares, okay, the phishing, the frauds, etc., sites, spam sites, etc., botnets. Okay, so we want to stop a lot of this. Okay, we want to stop people getting there in the first place. So we've blocked their email, stop them getting to the sites. Okay, here's the example: December 2015, distributed via a UK news website. Okay, this is the ransomware. Different antiviruses, etc., agencies or companies record them as slightly different signatures. So again, under the Kaspersky, it's recorded as Trojan ransom.windows32.bitman. Okay, it would capture it as well. So again, we can stop it not only by getting there, the content filtering, but also by the antivirus side, which is the next step. Okay, antivirus protects users from the viruses and worms. We are a gateway antivirus. Okay, so there is no replacement, or this is no replacement for having antivirus on the actual endpoint. So the endpoint security on your PCs, your Macs. I'm sure we're going to start seeing a lot of antiviruses going onto the Android phones and the Windows phones and the iPhones, etc., because again, they're going to be also targeted in this process. So again, we are a second layer. We're stopping a lot of it coming in or out. And again, apply the antivirus both ways in your environment. So LAN to WAN and also WAN to LAN. Okay, what's coming in, what's going out. It is worthwhile checking and scanning for those files. Okay. If we currently have a look, I had a quick look at this and I wanted to understand how many definitions, signatures there were in Kaspersky's antivirus out there. We have 1,302 ransom virus definitions in there, so lots of them in there, and we see those. Again, we can also see it from black and white lists. So again, we can stop some of this executable. If we don't want executables to be downloaded or even uploaded, or bin files or any other files that we're seeing, we can stop those within the black and white lists. Okay, And certainly with the latest generation of USGs, we're able to store a lot more signatures with the Kaspersky antivirus. Okay. So again, best practice says, have your endpoint security and also your endpoint security as well. Should really be different antivirus vendors. Okay, so therefore you get two different types. Again, from how often you download the signature packs, at least, minimum it should be daily. Okay, you should be checking for the latest signatures. You could knock that down into hourly, etc. if you were being hit hard by viruses or being targeted, etc. But again, we can change that within the configuration. Okay. The last part, or step 4 within this, is obviously the intrusion detection. Okay. Again, we can look through this. We have these definitions in there, and I had a quick look through, etc. in there, and again we can see malwares. Okay, so we use the Trend Micro IDP engine. So again, we're using the best of breeds, the Siron for the content filtering, the Kaspersky for the antivirus, Trend Micro for the IDP signatures and applications, and we can see that there is the malware CryptoLocker executable downloads. We can see the backdoors. We can see, and we can actually stop this. Okay, so we can look at this. We can activate them. We can turn them off, etc. We can log them. What are people doing in those different environments? So again, there's a whole signature base in there, and I would suggest with IDP you lock that down both from the LAN side and the WAN side. So LAN to WAN, WAN to LAN in that environment. Ultimately to stop the spread going out and also to stop spread coming in to your environment. So to bring that together in this environment, obviously we have our anti-spam that stops the mails being downloaded through the USG. Again, as I said, if it is a web-based mail system, a Hotmail, or a Gmail, etc., the anti-spam isn't going to stop that because you are out on the web, you're opening up on the web and bringing it back down. I would hope the content filter and the IDP, etc., would stop those coming down from that part. User opens up the email, the link, etc. Again, the content filtering will stop them going to the different websites to open up those files. The antivirus will then stop them being executed coming through, and the IDP will stop that attempt of being the attacks coming in, out, etc. So if you are compromised, okay, if you are compromised, you've got a botnet or something like that, again, on your machine, a logger, etc., on your machine, people can then place these ransomware executables, etc., through the network onto your machine without you even knowing about it. So again, they can miss out steps 1 to 3, etc., and just place the ransomware onto your machine, and then it can spread internally as well. Okay, so IDP will help with that process to stop those unusual attacks coming in. So this is actually, and apologies slightly, I'm going to show you the data behind this. This is a syslogging system which I've been using and trialing out there, and take many millions of logs, etc., out there, and then scan through them and actually see and alert myself and administrators, etc., of what's going on the USG. This actually comes from one of my customers' sites. And I asked him, he actually rolled out and put the USG in place for Premier Darts over New Year. Okay, and to see what was going on in his network and see what was going on in the network. Okay, there was during the time and during Christmas and the time there a number devices that came in which we were able to stop. Okay, and people trying to download these ransomware. Okay, some of the same machines, some of the different machines, etc. But again, we stopped those machines being infected with ransomware. Okay, and that's just one of the types that we found. So again, it is out there. It is regularly out there. Again, I speak and see customers on a regular basis, and there's not a week goes by in their life that ransomware doesn't hit one machine or a whole network of machines. So again, it is very prolific in the area, and actually, by putting the USGs in, by putting all the licensing and UTM functionality turning on and configuring it correctly, will actually stop and help in this process. Okay, so of course we don't want to get infected in the first place. Okay, if you are infected, then ultimately there are a number of ways to get unencrypted. I know a number of the viruses, including virus vendors, including Kaspersky, give out some freeware, etc., or free unencryption software. It's a never-going battle, though. So if you're lucky, and I say that in the nicest sense, to have a very old crypto locker style ransomware hit, then yes, the freeware, these tools from the virus vendors, Sophos, Kaspersky, Trend, etc., will help to unlock those files and get rid of it. If you're unlucky and you get one of the latest ones, which obviously the antivirus people haven't been able to decrypt, then you're going to pay. So, of course, we don't want to get it in the first place. Keep your system up to date. Keep your applications up to date. If you do receive suspicious email, don't click anything. Okay. I know that it might be tempting. An invoice comes in. Hey, what's the invoice? What are they after, etc. If you're in finance, that's a great phishing email. Send to the finance people invoices. They're going to click them, unfortunately. But if it's not coming from a known source, a known company, a known customer, then don't click them. Use antivirus software. Okay. Again, we are a gateway antivirus. We're a second layer of defense. The first layer has to be the antivirus software on your endpoint, on your machine. Try not to click on ads or for products or companies you don't know. Of course, sometimes, and again, with ourselves, we obviously put out ads into certain areas, but they are known about. Okay. Only download and install browser add-ons, plugins, extensions that you know and you want to install. Okay. Do not go to untrusted sources. Some of them look very legitimate, etc. Try not to do that. One of the biggest kind of behind the scenes kind of stuff comes off peer-to-peer, the torrents. Okay, and there's a number of peer-to-peer ransomwares that come off the peer-to-peer networks. Okay, and they're defined. You want the latest film, you want the latest episode of Games of Thrones to watch, etc. So you download it. Okay, I'm not saying whether that's legal or not, but you download it and you click it, and there's a ransomware automatically installed. So again, be very careful about that. Go to the source, go to reputable, known sources. And again, awareness is key. It's everybody's responsibility in the company or in their place of work, or anybody who's using this should be aware that this is out there. Okay, and it is everybody's responsibility to do that. Now, of course, I'm not saying it's not going to happen. Again, accidents do happen. People do click those links. They do open up those files, etc. we have to put in place the best process for that. Okay, and that's why we use the USG, we use the UTM functionality to try and protect the people. Okay, it's not good enough to just to say don't click anything, don't do anything, etc. Because accidents unfortunately do happen. Okay. Last reminder, again, this also comes from stuff, and this is what I regularly see. Okay, with most of the customers that I deal with, they perform backups and obviously they restore the machines. Okay, and you can think, hey, great, that's great, and you can think, fine, I haven't paid the ransom. But sometimes, and I'm going to look at this and go, worst case is the file service. If you've got map drives and everything else, and the ransomware is horrible in the sense that it will go through all your map drives and encrypt all of that. So now it's all on the servers, etc. So it's not just your machine. And again, it's the whole environment. You might well have backups, and I would suggest you always do. In this case, it's the amount of time to restore them. Okay. How long that process takes, and you've got to look at the fact of money, paying $100 or whatever, or $200 or whatever the Bitcoin rate is at the moment, exchange rate, it might be more efficient than actually the time taken to recovery. Okay, and you've got to weigh that up. But ultimately, most of the times that I see this, actually, they are recovering from backups, and that is the best way to recover your machine. So even your home machines, even your home devices, if there are important files, let's say, I go back to that priest, all his sermons, all his information that he's preached on over, that retired priest over those many years, that is information he is never going to get back. For me, that would be my photographs, my holidays, etc., my family side. If I lost that, I'd never get that back. Okay, so again, back them up. Make sure you've got backup copies somewhere of those so they can be recovered. So again, we have the next generation of USGs. There was a question yesterday regarding performance. Okay, and I know Christoph went and was going to go and get a table. Our performance is actually on our website, actually under specifications of the USG family. So if you want to go and have a look at the performance of those, the two licenses that have an impact on performance, and it doesn't matter what manufacturer you are, it will always have some form of impact, are the IDP, the Deep Packet Inspection, because we're taking it from a layer 3/4 up to layer 7, so we're actually going in, and also the antivirus, because we're stream-based, so we're processing that stream as it comes through. Things like anti-spam, obviously we're going out, we're checking it, we're coming back, so there's not a big overhead, and content filtering, we're doing the same. We're going out, checking it, and actually coming back. So there might well be slight time delays in those checks, depending on how active the processes are, the servers are, etc. But there is some caching on board the USGs as well. So again, if you go into regular websites, it will cache those within the USG, so it doesn't have to keep going out and checking those on a regular basis. Okay, so again, web security, deep packet inspection. So we're going into what is coming in, the attacks that we're seeing, the performance. Ultimately, we have the latent processes in our devices. Even by putting these licenses on, we still get a very high throughput rate on them. And then it's about setting up the policies, etc., to secure it. And again, we've made that easier by using the secure policies rather than having to create individual policies and then and rules, etc., associated with each of the licenses. Okay. So we've got some questions. I'm going to go back through them. I know that I've been seeing them coming in, so I'm going to go back through and have a look. A fair few of them in. So let's go through. First question. So we will be able to block HTTPS traffic incoming firmware upgrade with content filtering. Absolutely. I will be running later on, I think it's next month actually now, an introduction into 4.20 firmware. We're in the beta process right now. We've received the training, so we understand the functionalities and features, etc. We'll be taking that information and we'll be pushing that to you guys early before the actual release. And one of those is content filtering 2.0, where we will be able to look at the HTTPS lookups, etc. So we'll be blocking on the domain. So yes, we can start look at the HTTPS traffic with content filtering. So I'm just, can ransomware be hidden under SSL? I have a bit of trouble with SSL inspection where most banks, etc., sets up the SSL exclusion list, so only the original certificates will come to the clients. I mean, the USG certificates. Ransomware can come in all forms and be hidden in different ways. You know, again, from the phishing, etc. Yes, SSL. You know, we do have SSL inspection on our higher end from the USG 110 and above. You know, if you do have the ability to or are in control of the machines, okay. Let's say it is a bank, for instance, or a known department where you have the machines, then we can use SSL inspection. We will be able to place our certificate onto, or a known certificate onto those devices, and be able to break into the traffic. Okay. Once we can break the SSL into the SSL, then we can run the UTM functionality through that traffic, check it, make sure it's secure, and then encrypt it straight back out again. Okay. So yeah, it's not something to be used in hospitality. Again, this is why I'm saying within the environments, if you can block LAN to WAN and WAN to LAN, both ways round, then you know, if someone does get infected on the inside with a BYOD device or something that isn't necessarily in your control, you try and limit its spread across the network internally. You know, again, BYOD devices, etc., need to be put onto their own network away from a company network. So even if it's a separate VLAN or a separate LAN, etc., use that separation. Use the USG as the separation point. Okay, you can then use the SSL inspection to increase that security. Okay. Yes, ransomware can come in within SSL, hidden within SSL. Of course, that you know they want that to be. Okay, I will pick. I will pick that up afterwards. You've gone into some depth on the certificates and the SSL part, so I will pick that up separately outside of this. Okay. Do you have the same options to block the ransomware in legacy USG series with UTM? Actually, yes, we do. Okay. You know, the issue you might hit there, and I say that in the nicest sense, is maybe some of the performance. When you start turning on all of the UTM functionality in both directions, then you might come into a performance issue. But certainly the licensing, the antivirus, the IDP, the content filtering will certainly help on the legacy devices. Okay, and again, I say that when we move to the antivirus 2.0 again, we've got 68,000 signatures versus 3,200. So again, our signature set from capacity radically increased. But certainly having a second layer of gateway on the antivirus will always help. The IDP will help. We have the same signature sets, etc., on there. And again, the content filtering will also help and be able to block some of the malware stuff that's coming in. Matthews has asked how many SSL exclusions can be added to USG 110. I don't know is the answer to that one. I will have to go away and find out. That's a very good question. There will be a limit. I just don't know what that limit will be off the top of my head. So we will pick that up afterwards. Blue Coat and ComTouch, they're actually one and the same. To be honest, I think Blue Coat bought ComTouch. We actually now use the Siren engine, so we use another one out there. So we saw there was too much dominance out there. We tried to give two different options. In fact, they merged, I believe, out there, or there was some merger of ComTouch and Siren, etc. So yeah, they're all very much the same. The Siren gives us the ability to check the health of the traffic coming through as well. So there's a lot of, not only do we use their content filtering and the categorization, but we get into all this malware, botnets, etc. Depth from their global view web service, I think is what they refer to it as. And it gives us a lot more in-depth information on that traffic. If there's no other questions, I would like to thank you very much for your time. Other questions, please do email me. Again, happy to help, happy to have conversations with people about what they're trying to achieve, what they're trying to stop. Again, like I said, I pick up it. I go around regularly to customers. I'm always asking about ransomware and different subjects. I have the Logflare service, etc., available, so we can start tracking some of this and seeing the security alerts. Sometimes it's all too late when that message appears. We want to know actually what the USG is doing to stop us and help us stop the traffic coming through, and that's really the value of it. And we can see that again. I gave you the example. Here, none of these customers got hit with ransomware. The value of having the USG in that environment meant that we destroyed it. Okay, and that's the value that this reseller gave to Premier Darts, etc., in that environment. No one got ransomware while they were behind his protection and his environment, and he was able to prove that by actually running the logs, running through the information, and showing that back to the customers. So it's all very useful. Okay. So if there's no other questions, no other information, have a really great day. The sun is shining at last. Summer has finally arrived. So enjoy it. Thank you very much.